The key topic for today's webinar will be data and analytical tools to visualize knowledge. But before starting this conversation, I would like to make a short presentation of the TESI project. I will share with you. Just a minute, please. Sorry, Giorgio, there is a problem with, I can't.
We can see the presentation.
Yes, but I can't move the slides. Okay, it's okay now. Thank you. So, TESI is a partnership of 6 universities and 1 research center from 6 ADRION countries: Italy, Greece, Albania, Serbia, Croatia, and Slovenia, with lead partner University of Bologna. UniADRION Network and other 4 associated partners from Italy, Slovenia, Albania, and Bosnia-Herzegovina will cooperate and work together in project activities in favor of promotion and implementation of the joint master. The project objectives are to raise competencies and skills in social innovation and to establish a network of universities and the research centers to define and implement the joint master. The main output will be the creation of an action plan for the implementation. Please mute your microphone. Can you hear me all? So the main output will be the creation of an action plan for the development of the joint master, of a strategy, and the creation of an innovative transnational network of universities, research institutions, and business organizations working in the field of social innovation. The program envisages funded mobility to partners universities and includes also training internship period to allow students writing their thesis in a real-life working or research center. For this purpose, the joint master will cooperate with business partner to offer learning by doing courses. In relation to this presentation, it is important to note that the main areas of study will be migration and social inclusion, aging, urban and rural development, social and sustainable economy, and education. This is a webinar agenda. Currently, today's webinar is the 5th webinar that takes place in the series of this agenda. Don't miss the last but not least webinar organized by the Hellenic Open University in Greece. You can see there is a change in date, so the last webinar will be in this date here. Thank you very much for joining. And now I will give the floor to my colleague, visiting professor and also part of the project team, Dorian Llano, to make the discussion of the current theme of this webinar. Thank you, Dorian. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Marcela. Good afternoon to everybody. It is really a pleasure to have all you in this webinar. So my name is Dorian Llano. I'm a researcher and also a visiting lecturer at the University of Tirana. So together with my colleagues at the University of Tirana, but also at the Hellenic Open University with Georgia, we are handling this webinar, which will be mostly focused on the big data and what tools we can use for visualizing the information. I'm trying to share the screen, so please let me know if you can see it. Okay, so how do we thought to organize this this webinar, because the topic is very broad and there are a number of issues, but we are thinking to cover a bit on let's say some of the tools that can be used easily, and one of them is Google, as you know, and the sub programs that they have in terms of managing those big data. And then a second part will be, let's say, a more expertise for NGOs or think tanks that want to go in a more systematic analysis of the abundance of the literature. So this is how we thought to do this webinar. Let's start with a kind of first discussion on the big data. There is a huge debate on that regarding like legal aspect and many other aspects, but we will take this for granted because we don't have, let's say, time to go deeply. The most important here that we wanted to point is that it seems by many studies that there is a lack of use of this abundant information, especially by civil society or social actors compared to let's say big organization or the economical sector. So even here there is one point to make it clear that with time we are seeing also what is called open science, citizen science, with a number of big data and applications that makes this information more easily to be read by common citizens. So on the discussion of the big data, so what we can consider big data before, like for everybody that was doing a quantitative analysis, let's say a number of 1,000 entries or data could be considered quantitative. Today we are in a situation where this number is enormous. So when we talk for big data, we consider the volume of the information that we have, the speed of how we could go with within this analysis of the data, the variety of the information that we have, the variability on the information that we get from many different sizes, and also the discussion of how much true this information is. So that the most discussion on big data goes on what is called the 7 Bs. So now let's see, because we were thinking to make it more practical. So I am also giving some information on a practical case study, and we got migration in this case since it was one of the topic of the consortium. So we will try to answer concrete question regarding migration. So the first, as I said, and it's an easy tool that could be used by everybody, is the Google portal, which has a number of tools that are ready to be used, so you can get the information. And one of them is the so-called Google Trend, where you could have a kind of information of, let's say, what are the topics that like every citizen is searching in Google, and by that to try to create a kind of visual idea of what may be the public interest for a certain topic. So as we were getting migration, so you could see that the first slide gives you a kind of trend throughout the time for people that have searched migration. We are taking here worldwide, so like in all the states, the Google make a kind of calculation of how much the term migration was used specifically. And if you see, Also here in the table, you could have a very longitudinal data, so starting from 2010, or you could also decide the year that you are interested on the issue. And by the graph, we could pretty much see that it has been a term, you know, that has dominated the, let's say, the public interest, especially in this year, where it's one of the most research term, and it's the year 2018. So beside that, you could get some information on the countries that was searching mostly by this term. And as you can see, like, there are the countries which the color is more dark, where the term has been of more interest. At the same time, you can search also by sub-countries or by cities. This depends on the interest that you may have for the information to know. What is also important for somebody that works on a specific issue is trying to see or to understand what is the concern of public regarding the topic. So you could have, let's say, the questions that have been written in Google, so you could understand a bit of what was the concern at that time. And as we can see for the graph, for example, the most used question is like, what is migration? Or people were looking about the data regarding the issue. So this, I think, is a very helpful tool for somebody that is working on specific issues, and like, if you want to get an idea of what is, let's say, the interest of the citizens for specific region, or for specific country or city that you are working for a specific period of time, or for more concrete questions regarding that topic. So this is one of the tools that Google can offer you. The second one, which is we could say a more elite base regarding the books. So Google has, or is one of the most repository that have abundant information on the current books that have been written throughout the years. And they are working on a program which is called the Ngram. So they are scanning all the books and making an information database about the words that have been used. So what information we can get in this is like what terms or how a specific issue have been reflected in the written books. So as you can see in the slide here, you could put a number of related words that you are interested in. You could also choose the year, the time period that you are interested in. And I mean, Google offers this option of having information on books from 1,500 years old. So you could use this tab here and choose on the specific year that you may be interested. Perhaps you are more interested on the latest year, so to have a more clear picture of what's going on. There is also the option where you can choose the language of the book. So in this case, we took only the English book, but I will show later that you can choose information on books in other languages. So these are the two others are some, let's say, information that you may want. For example, if you are interested only on the word, then you need to choose case insensitive, meaning that like you get all the words that are lowercase or upper cases is in only one graph. And the other one regarding the smoothing values, it makes a kind of average. For example, if you are interested to have a more round figure, not for the specific year. You could make a smoothing or an average for the 3 years or 5 year span. So having the information that you want. This is a very interesting site, as I said, because it has more than 20 billion books that exist worldwide. So it's the most, let's say, repository of the written things today. And here you could see the other graph that I was saying, like you could choose books that are only in Italian or in other languages like Chinese or Hebrew, and try to see and make a comparison of the topic. So in this case, we could see that yes, the Italians or the books that are written in Italian consider a higher number of the words mentioning migration, and then you have Hebrew that also try to use this word of have this intention to this topic, and then the Chinese, which is pretty much lower. Just a short information on the number that you see over here. This is a kind of calculation, like how many often this word appear compared to all the words that have been used. So let's say in our case, we could see that the word has been used, let's say around 20 words in a million, in 1,000 words. So pretty much it seems that it's a topic that has raised an interest to the writers. So this regards another program called Talkwalker. We know that most of the influences today regards social media. So in a way, perhaps we may be interested to know how much or what type of information is circulating in the current social media, like Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and all the others. So again, we are taking here the word migration. So this is a graph, or like we have chosen for this last week to see a bit how the word was used in all the social medias that I was mentioning. So you could see the kind of trend and which day, let's say, this word was mentioned mostly. Another very important tool sometimes when we deal with an issue is to try to see what is the perception of the citizens or those that are writing. Like, do they have a positive attitude or do they have a kind of negative attitude to that? There are some mechanisms that you could do that, but this site is doing automatically for you. And like when we see the green upper side, it means that the attitude, the social media writing, it's positive, mostly positive to the topic of migration. And when you see the downside, then it means that the writers, the public attitude on the issue have been mostly negative. There are other informations that we could get. For example, one maybe like which type of media has been used. I mean, this is for people that work on a specific topic. They could then choose, to make their promotion or their work in this specific medium, knowing that perhaps the topic have been discussed mostly in that. And in our case, we see that Twitter has been the last week one of the social media that was dealing with issues of migration. The same you could do, like trying to find from which countries those writers have been talking about migration. And in our case, for the last week, it seems that United States has been like the users have been from US, and the other two countries are Germany and UK. So you could understand a bit of which are you know, the countries that are more preoccupied on the topic. Another useful tool that they have is what is called today the word cloud. So you could get some information or like how or which are the topics or the other words that have been used together with migration. So you could see like Greece and I don't know, like then you can have the EU, so the relation of the migration to the EU and the bound of information that you can get by this relation of the wording. This tool have a number of information like that are more specific, like if you want to know which languages these people are writing, so English for sure here dominates, but then you see like the most of the social media post has been written also in German, like 10%, and then you could see genders like males are the most of those that have written the last year about migration. You could see and have information about age, so for sure youngsters have been also dealing with the issue. And another information that you can get is like who is writing, if there are like politicians or students or managers that their focus has been on the topic. So I think these are some of the, let's say, tools that you can use. And I mean, you don't need to have a kind of expertise, but you could get some information on the issues that you are working with, or have a kind of strategy on the way how you'd go to approach this issue regarding the abundant information that you may have on the general scene. So now I would like to go to a part that is more specialized for the ones that are coming from think tanks or civil society, that they want to do and have a control also on the methods how they deal with this data. So again, as I'm saying, it is becoming more and more difficult, you know, to have a kind of expertise on an issue, considering the abundant articles that are coming like every day or every week. So being an expert on an issue is becoming very difficult, because you need to read a number of articles. So some databases where you could find this more expert, you know, knowledge or information is for sure Web of Science, and then Scopus or GStore and other repositories are very useful on that. They are free in a way, but still you need to have this kind of accounts, so rather through universities or other research centers that can have access on this information. So just for curiosity, I don't know, like how many articles do you think are today on the migration studies? So I don't know if you could guess, but that's the number of the articles that you could find in the Web of Science. So it's around 200,000 scientific papers. So even with your good wish, you know, it's impossible to cover this information. So we need to find some ways of how to deal that. But I will focus now only on the region, on the Balkans. So there are about 4,500 papers or articles that have been written on the issue of migration in the Balkans, and still this is a huge amount of work to be done, you know, if you want to read one by one the literature. So what can be some of the options or way out to deal with this information? There is the so-called distant reading of the literature. So like if we can get the example of the bird eyes tree. So you just see all this information from above and get a kind of information. This is a very thoughtful method, so it has its own scientific methodology. So it identified and make a kind of systematic synthesis of a certain type of literature. So there are many two trends here that we will look. The first one regards the kind of mapping that we could do of the literature. So trying to find at least what has been those articles, those authors that have influenced a lot the topic. So then you can go and have a more qualitative reading on those issues. And the second one regards a more general idea of what's going on in this specific topic, like what is the structure in terms of topics and issues that have been considered more important. So even here we have a number of you know, softwares and tools. I am just mentioning the ones that are free, so you could download them. The previous one is this HIST site. I mean, now it is not in use. It has been created by the Web of Science, so to analyze those data. But the newer one, the CITNet Explorer, is a very handful tool for analyzing the literature, and you can do that with the databases from the Web of Science or Scopus, and have this information of how the literature relates. So they use a number of algorithms, you know, to make the linkages, and the idea is that they are looking at the bibliography and taking into considerations that whoever is used in this bibliography means that it has shaped in a way the topic. So on practical term, this is the information that we can get. So we are presenting here a kind of timeline of the number of articles that have been written in the Web of Science having this topic of migration and Balkans. So if you see in a kind of historical term, we can identify the boom, let's say, of the scholarly attention for the migration topic, especially after 2016. And I mean, for those that study the topic, it's obvious because of the so-called Syrian crisis at that time. So what you see with blue is the number of articles written for each year. And the line, the black line, it's a kind of calculation on the citations. So the interpretation here is on the importance that specific article have been taken into the literature. So for sure, the books or the articles written on migration into the Balkans, it is very much shaping the overall literature from 2016-2018. So this regards the timing. Then you can have a number of information like what are the topics, or let's say the approach or the disciplines that this abundant literature focuses more. So we can see that demography keeps the first place, but then you have papers from political science and international relation and you know, other fields like history, sociology. So I mean, the topic is multidisciplinary, we could say, and there is not only one aspect that experts are looking at. So this is what you can get as an information if you use the SIT software. It's a kind of complicated, but I will try to summarize it with one word. So what you can see is this circle with a number, and then you have also the legend. So which article corresponds to the specific number of the literature. And if you see the connection, it means that this paper is citing the other. So you build a kind of, let's say, structure or network of the current literature. And then by going to the individual papers that are supposed to be important because they have been cited mostly, let's say, line above, it means that most of those papers have been dealt with the case of Bosnia or Kosovo. And then lately, the papers deal more with the case of Syrians in Turkey and Greece. So this is a kind of, you know, like seeing the migration issues inwards, let's say, in the region. So people from the region going outside migrating, and on the second case, we have the outward migration in the terms that other citizens are coming into the region. Other more specific information could be then get by this picture. For example, the most thematic or topics in the first decade regards post-trauma. So post-trauma of refugees that have left the war, while on the other part of the decade, we could see that the topic has been rather the integration of the Syrians into the region, or the topic of xenophobia or solidarity in terms of refugees. So there is a kind of picturing on what's going on, you know, in the general framework on the topic, and then everybody could go and choose, you know, to make a more qualitative analysis for specific issues that is of your own interest. The same kind of information, as I was saying, could be done with the new software, the so-called Citation Network Explorer. And like this is more easier because it gives you the most frequented cited articles, but in this case, not with the number, but with the name or with the first name of the author. And what it can do more, you know, is trying to find this relation. So the same color means that this article in a way cite each other. So let's say they make a kind of very specific related topic, and that could be the one, you know, that you could go in more detail for the specific issues that you are interested. So again, here I'm trying to to give you the idea of what's going on, because like if you press and expand this, let's say, zone here, then you could find the more detailed authors and how they relate to each other, what topic they have been focused more. And in this case, it's again is in the first one, so the issue of Bosnia and Kosovo, so post-trauma war refugees. And the green one, it's again the kind of literature and how it connects to each other. The main topic here has been migration remittances. And again, Kosovo and Bosnia seem to be the countries that are of more interest to this type of literature. On the bottom side, the blue, let's say, group, you could see the type of authors and topics that they have been used. So Syrian integration and Greece and Turkey has been the case. And the last group that we can see it here, it's again about migration in general of the Syrian refugees in Turkey and Greece. So this is the kind of mapping of the literature regarding who has been cited mostly, and taking this as a kind of influence into the topic. Then you could go more deeply and have a more qualitative analysis of the information, but at least you are informed on how to choose, or what articles you need to choose out of the thousands of articles that exist today. The other part that we will see is a kind of thematics. So we are more focused on this second part about what topics are the most used in the literature, and also kind of temporality. So which issue is more important in certain specific period of time. Even here we have some softwares that could help us. The first one is the Voice Viewer. It makes a kind of analysis of the words that goes together. So you can rather use, let's say, the words used together in the title or in the abstract. So it depends on your choice. And the other program has other let's say, tools that could help you. But one of those that it's more important is this temporal analysis. So you see like which topic, which word has been used mostly in a specific period of time. So I don't know if you have your cell phones, you can have this this code, and you will see that the graph that I'm showing here, it's dynamic, so you could work and see the details. So if we can make a kind of summary, for sure, Syrian refugees, it's the dominant topic of the migration in the region. And more specifically, we will see like the barriers and social inclusion. I will show you the details of like the graph in words, and like how you could develop, a kind of thematic overview, because this is not done by the program. So you need also here a kind of interpretation. Then the second strand of literature, we will see it's the Balkan routes, and here the discussion is between the violence that has happened or solidarity on the throughout the Balkan route of migration. We have a third topic which is very important, and this regards the wars in the Balkans and the idea of the refugees' return or their post-traumatic stress disorder. And you will see that there are also other minor issues, but still important, such as like European asylum policy or health issue, migration in general, and child and family. So what the programs gives you through the algorithm, it tries to match the words that goes together. So in this column here, you have all the words that the program finds, to have a consistency on showing together with a kind of order. So Syrian refugees, it's the most common words used for this grouping. So that's why sometimes by reading this graph, you can create, of course, with a kind of prior knowledge on the topic, you can create kind of, or give a kind of labeling. So in this case, I think it's the topic could be called Syrian refugees, and then you find all the other information, like in this case I say barrier because there is this conflict and crisis, and sometimes they mention like the future and social inclusion idea. So there is a kind of tension or argumentation within this topic. The same you could go on, like for the second path you see like violence, conflict, has been the words that relate. And as I said, this regards the Balkan route, so 2016, 2018. So this is a kind of thematic for a specific issue that you are interested in. And I mean, you don't need to read the 4,000 articles, but you have this bird view of what's going on in the literature. Then, as I said, like you could go on specific term that you may be interested and try to find like which are their companion, which words have been used. So in this case, I was taking the word solidarity, trying to see that there have been discussion about the Syrian refugees and solidarity to them, or solidarity in the case of the Balkan routes. And then you can develop the kind of narrative in this case, like seeing from the graph, we could question, like for solidarity of whom and for what type of solidarity we're talking about. So is it solidarity among the member states or among the countries? Are we talking about the solidarity within the refugee groups or within the NGOs, and so on? You can then deepen your analysis with qualitative approach. The program also gives you a kind of timing, so it matches, let's say, the words that appears mostly in specific period of time. And if you see here the graph, meaning that like the one that are more in a kind of blue are articles written in 2012, and the latest one, 2020, are more colored with yellow. So like the refugees, Syrian refugees, it's a topic that has been used lately, and initially for sure we have been focused on war and the case of Bosnia, as I was saying. So even here you could have like the period of or the information taking into consideration the time frame. And the last component that I would say before closing this presentation and then doing the discussion is the C2 tool, which uses an algorithm trying to find, like the topics regarding time. So it gives you a kind of sketch of each word, and if it is used most, let's say more often in terms of quantity or lesser, then you could you could have this kind of information in a graph. So the graph pretty much gives like the area of it gives also the let's say the amount of use. So with the first side, we could say that, yeah, in the beginning, you know, the literature uses many words. So in a way, it was not, let's say, focused somewhere beside, let's say, Bosnia-Herzegovina, where you see that it's more dark, or the area here, it's bigger, or Kosovo. So this could be, you know, the main topics. The other are, you know, used, but with no specific attention or word here. And lately we could see that we have less words, meaning that perhaps the literature it's more focused. And I mean, the importance here is we are talking about crisis, we are talking about COVID or the pandemic. So, you know, the literature become more specialized in a way, or more focus oriented. And then you could do other interpretation of the graphs, you know. So the first one is I'm calling this the nexus, the in and out nexus. So in the beginning, we are focusing on the region and the migration going out of the region. Kosovo and Bosnia has been the case of interest. And another issue that we could see regards this idea of security and solidarity. So in the beginning, our concern was, you know, like security issues and what problems it may raise. And then we see that lately people also talk for let's say solidarity, a kind of human approach to the topic. So there are a number of elaborations that you can have, but I mean, the idea here was to try to mention in this 1 hour, you know, some of the softwares that already exist. As I said in the beginning, the first one that I was presenting, you know, you don't need to have a kind of expertise on that, because the software is doing those or is producing those graphs and concise information by its own. So you just read, for example, their methodology and what they do to have an idea. But I mean, it's all the information given to you visually, and you can use it for your work. The second part, it's, you know, you need perhaps more work on that to understand and to know precisely how to use the tools. But I think once you get used on that, they become very useful on getting some you know, visual information for a bundle of literature that you will find it difficult, you know, to go by the usual way of exploring them qualitatively. Then, like, if you find your own path on that, you could deepen the knowledge. So this is what I wanted to share with you. And for sure, we will have an open session of questions, discussion, and comments. So thank you very much. And I think Marcela could take the lead. And since we have also other partners.
Thank you very much, Dorian, for your presentation. Now is the time for question. If anyone has question, please raise your hand or just open your microphone, or comments about the topic. Please, Giorgio, help me if anyone is raising the hand. I can't see.
No, currently I don't see any raised hands.
Maybe Dea, or Okay, I'm inviting Clotilda from Partners Albania to make some comments or to share her experience in this topic.
Hi, do you hear me? Yeah. Hello, everybody. Hi, Marcela. Thank you.
Hi, Clotilda. Thank you for being part of this webinar. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. And I would also like to thank Mr. Yano for the presentation. It was very interesting, actually, and I think very useful for me and for us as an organization that is very much involved in research, in data gathering, analysis. So all of the tools presented, I'm sure that will be useful to us in our future work with research. I will make a short presentation of the organization that I'm representing. I work for Partners Albania for Change and Development, which is an Albanian organization. We are a non-profit organization. And we are mostly working in support of civil society in the country and facilitation of cooperation between different stakeholders in order to strengthen the democracy in the country and to advance the development of the country. And for that purpose, we have oriented our work in 4 main pillars, actually. The first being the enabling environment and sustainable development for civil society. Entrepreneurship and social innovation is another area of work. Philanthropic activity and support infrastructure, and transparent and accountable participatory governance. As an organization, as I said, we are a local organization, but we work very much also regionally and internationally, and we are part of several networks, which coming to the topic is, I would say, a very valuable asset, because being part of the networks and being in contact with other organizations and stakeholders that work in the same areas as Partners Albania is working, gives us a lot of opportunity to be in touch with the recent developments, recent data and publications in the area in which Partners Albania is working. In the 4 thematic areas that we are working, a very important part of our work is research. Every initiative or new project or new program that we implement as an organization is based on some previous research and need assessment that we conduct in the field to understand the situation, to understand the context, and then based on that to develop some to address the issues based on the data that we collect and based on the information that is available to address, as I said, the needs that are in the fields of intervention that we are working with. So about data and data collection, as I said, as part of our work as an organization, and I think most of civil society organizations, we tend to collect our own data. We are very much oriented, I would say, on primary data. So being organizations that work with people or communities and trying to address the needs of these people and communities, we organize very much research to collect the information from directly, let's say, from our beneficiaries. For Partners Albania, the main beneficiaries, as I said, are for the area on civil society, are civil society organizations. So to understand, let's say, the situation and the needs of these organizations, we very much focus on gathering data directly from them, and this is also relevant for other areas and for other groups with which we are working. And for this purpose, we use very much the surveys with these organizations and these stakeholders, and through questionnaires that we use as a tool to gather the information. We collect this kind of data. In our organization, we use very much the SurveyMonkey to collect data as a tool, and also to do some analysis information that we collect through these tools. And then we also use other means and programs for in-depth analysis or for further analysis of data that could not be generated, let's say, from these tools that are available. But on the other hand, of course, that we also use these secondary sources of information, and Google is one of the main, I would say, tools that we use for this purpose. And as I said, being part of different networks and being connected with other organizations and stakeholders in other countries, I think that we use these connections to see what are the most relevant publications, studies, and data produced by other similar organizations that work in the same fields that we are working as organizations, so that we can generate this data from others' reports and from others that are for us like reliable sources of information, because as was rightly mentioned by Mr. Jano, there is a lot of information now on internet, so sometimes it is difficult to choose what is the best information, what is the most relevant information. And this is also, I can say, a challenge when you have to find some information for the topic that you are working or for the research that you are conducting. So one of the criteria, what I would say, that we use to select this kind of the information that which is the best fitting with our purpose and aim of the research that we are conducting, is to see that this information is coming from some sources that we already know as part of our work and exchanges, and that we trust that the source of this information is a reliable source. And here I would also include academia, universities, and as part of our work, we have also had very good relations with universities to prepare, let's say, these instruments, tools for data gathering, or methodologies that we use in our research, because we are aware that even though we have some expertise within the organization in this aspect, still you can't, one organization cannot have all the expertise that is needed in this regard. So cooperation and collaboration is very important with other research institutions or consultancies or sources that are available in our ecosystem. How to say so? This is more or less our experience, and as I said, we use a lot the information and data. Even within the organization, we have a lot of data that are administered, managed within the organization, and used time to time for the purposes of our work. For example, we produce every year annually a report, which is the report for the enabling environment for civil society organizations in the country, monitoring matrix, like we call it. And this report that we produce with data gathered through different means and tools and instruments is used then by the organization, but also by other stakeholders as an advocacy tool through which we prepare then short policy papers, policy briefs, or infographics, other means through which we try to advocate and lobby decision makers and other stakeholders to make decisions or to make actions, to take actions that would then address the challenges or the problematic issues that we have identified through these reports. So it is very important for me to combine all different sources and tools and means of communication to achieve the objectives of the work, and which are in line with the mission, let's say in our case, of the organization. But I think this is relevant for all institutions and other types of organizations. So more or less, it would be my contribution. If there is any question, I'm willing to.
Thank you, Clotilda, for sharing with us your experience. Thank you very much for your time. If Dorian has something, I will give the floor to Armela from IDOMO. Armela, are you here?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for the invitation. I don't know if you can hear me well.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, so thanks also for the presentation. Really an interesting presentation. Actually, I work at Institute for Democracy and Mediation, and there we work with lots of quantitative and qualitative data. And so today, maybe I'll make a short introduction in terms of the programs that we use for analyzing the qualitative data, because I'm also more experienced on these programs. And I'll also share with you the website. If you could please maybe share with all the participants the demo while I'm also can explain the main feature of this program. This is actually a program that I've been using also for my PhD. It's a program, it's a software for analyzing and for creating codes and structures for qualitative data. It's like, I think when you have more than like 20 interviews or more than 10 interviews, it's very productive. So it can organize all your data into kind of software, and also it does not provide you tools for analytic tools, but it's only for organizing, for systemizing all this kind of information that you have from all the interviews, especially when you have like long interviews that are more than like 1.5 hours. We've been using this at our institute since 7 years ago, when we had kind of to analyze data with kind of prisoners, very sensitive kind of population, when we have to code the names of the interviewers, the names of the participants. So I'm going to explain a little bit of the main features of this program, but it would be also beneficial so you can have an idea by displaying this. I shared with you, Marcela, the website. So while I'm talking, you can, if it's possible. Okay, so
yes, I'm trying, but you can speak while I'm trying to share it.
I'm going to explain the main feature of this program, which is, as I said, is the best tool for comprehensive, also qualitative data analysis and diverse data sets. So it works with coding systems. So the coding systems, what is the coding system? Are the keywords, main themes. You create main themes from the interviews, and so they are categorized in codes and then subcodes. So, but it's better when you visualize it. So it is used also not only for analyzing the data, but also for transcribing the data. So once you have the visual, like the audio, you can, if it's in English, for example, it can be done automatically. But in Albania, we have to do it manually. But then you have a certain window when you can transcribe your data. There are also not only audio, but also video as well. So basically, it's like it lets you to transcribe the data faster, easier, to kind of categorize all the information and put all together in one, let's say, in one window. Another feature is also can help for the literature review. We all know that when we kind of prepare research, the literature review is quite comprehensive. It needs time and can be very difficult as a process, because you have a lot of kind of files and all the documents that you have to review. So it also helps to categorize and to kind of to put together all this, the literature review feature. Also, I've been using only the qualitative. We have someone crying, but if you can, okay, switch off the microphones, please. Okay, if sorry, if you could please switch off the microphone, also the camera. So we are doing parallel work, so don't worry. So basically, it also, I've been using this software for analyzing the qualitative data, but it can be used for quantitative data, because it allows for like visualization of the data. It's as it says, it's a mixed method software, also for statistical analysis. But this is some of the key features, and also a really nice, let's say, interesting other feature is for those that have to do the content analysis. So basically, it can analyze all these materials, and they can like occurrence. So you can use the
it's okay now.
The demo. It's so basically, content analysis is when you have to analyze the occurrence of specific words, phrases, topics, concepts, and so on. And also, it can also analyze the relationships between words, concept, and kind of make a qualitative interference. So basically, it can also visualize by colors and by frequencies. You can put the demo, the standard one. So because this is the standard level, but you can have like more features if you get the advanced level. So you can have the feature for analyzing the quantitative data, but also more like content analysis. Unfortunately, so this is the interview basically, and so this is the interview. It is as you might see, if you can stop it, if you can, a moment. So it's divided in 4 windows. If you can play again, okay. So you see that there are 4 windows there. The first window is when you have all the transcribed interviews. See, so basically you have them in words, in audio, but also in video. And then the second that is below the window, below that is the segments. So these are the codes. Based on the codes, you will do the analysis. So with the, you have the coding system. So it depends on what kind of methods you're using. If you're working with the grounded series, so basically you have to develop your own codes based on the field work. You start with the main themes. So if you don't have a research question, for example, and with this grounded theory, I've been using this software, you go by developing these main themes, and then you see and you develop the codes and then the subcodes, and then you make colors to different codes. And if you say, and if you kind of if you press the one code, for example, you'll see that all the retrieved codes, and they can be exported in Excel sheet. So when you do the analysis and you have, for example, the codes for reasons like push factors, like for migration, you have all, like from 50 interviews that you have done, you have all the codes for the push factors for migration, for example. So basically you have them categorized, you have them with colors, and you can kind of, it's very easily, you can use it very easily. And also you can also make some statistical analysis, frequencies. And it's nice that with these pro features, you can also export the survey as well from like SurveyMonkey, Excel, SPSS. You can directly import this tools to the software. And so this is, I think, most important feature of the program. As I said, unfortunately, this is, you have to pay for this program. So we were lucky at our office, we could kind of buy this program, and we installed it in our computers. So everyone can use it when necessary, because not always necessary, but it can serve time. Because when you do the transcribing, the analysis, it's time consuming. So it can be very helpful. So, and it can be exported. I mean, another feature is that you can, like more than 1 or 2 person can work. It's like when you work in group dynamics, it's very easy to be used at the same time by different kind of persons and researchers, transcribers at the same time, so it can save time. It can be, all the codes can be transferred or exported in Excel sheet, documents, PDF, so it easily, it's another interesting feature of this program. But as I said, is you have to pay for this. For students, I think they have a discount for students, but still you have interesting, I don't know now, but I think you have a kind of feature. If you have to use the program, you can use it 1 month free of charge. So you can see the demo, and then with 1 month, when you get registered with one, for example, with one email address, and then you can use it. If you can make it to analyze all the data with 1 month, like do the coding, export all of them in Excel, and you're done. But if you want to use it more for longer time, then the department, or maybe, I don't know, the organization have to pay for you. So this is all what I been using at IDM, but also for my PhD studies was very helpful. I mean, I had to transcribe like 83 interviews, which was like impossible to do it. Like maybe there are other programs also, but this one has really interesting and easily it can user friendly. So it's, you can activate, deactivate the codes, and the demo is also kind of very interesting, and it saves time, and it kind of put all the data, all the things together. It's less time consuming than other tools. So this is all what we have, and it has also a nice feature for keeping the confidentiality of the and anonymity of the, because you put codes, and so you for if you have to do the analysis section for each of the codes, for example, you have memo where you can also put your insights there or make analysis directly as a researcher, because I mean the feature is not at that point that can somehow do the analysis. It should be done by you as a researcher, the analysis. It can it only has to categorize, to organize all the data that you have in a friendly manner. So thank you for for this. I don't know if you have any question, or feel free, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Armela, for this interesting presentation and sharing with us your experience in research. Is anyone else who want to make a question? Please raise your hand.
I have a question, Marcela. Can I?
Yes, Nucella.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I believe that these were very useful tools. I want to thank Dorian and, of course, Clotilda, because Partners, of course, is one of the organizations more involved in social innovation, and, of course, Armela for the tool that she presented. For Armela, I had a question, but she already said that the program was not free, so it's clear for me now. But I have a question for Dorian, if it's possible. And more specifically for this program that is for measuring the social media issues like TalkWalker, because I see that it's a very interesting tool, for example, for finding which type of media is being used or in which country a special issue is more important. But my question was more related to the perception. So for a special issue, if the public has positive or negative attitude, and more specifically, which can be the details in this program. For example, if I want to find something for Albania, and probably for Albania there is a language gap, as Armela explained also. For example, by keywords, if I can find for the attitude of the public or specific issue that is being discussed nowadays, for example. Or if I can put the name, for example, of Albanian politician and to see which is the perception in Albania for him or for her. Thank you.
So Dorian, you are going to answer now, or we will collect the question and
but I
we will
suggest
answer after the partners.
Yeah, I think it will be better, so we give some time also to our partners,
So
and then I connect all the things.
Okay, thank you, Dorian. So I'm giving the floor to Dea from National Youth Congress.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Dea. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Marcela, and to your team for inviting the National Youth Congress to be part of this webinar. And thank you for sharing your experience and also the projects and platforms you are currently working on the topic of big data visualization, especially in the field of civil society and social innovation. I'll just give a brief overview of the National Youth Congress. We are a youth umbrella organization expanded all over the territory of Albania, and we work with young people as our main target groups. The National Youth Congress of Albania has 3 key programs where it is invested, and all our efforts go towards empowering young people in decision-making processes, investing in the capacity building and skills of our member organizations, and advocating for youth rights and youth issues. Our key 3 programs of intervention are institutional dialogue and cooperation, research, monitoring and evaluation, and political education and capacity building. So we have a dedicated department that works with data collection, data analysis, and monitoring and evaluation. It's called the National Youth Congress Monitoring and Evaluation Office, and it's composed by a team of my colleagues who engage throughout the whole work that we do in quarterly or yearly basis to collect all the data coming from the target group we work with and corresponding to the programs that we deal with. This is one way of how we gather data and how we analyze data. We use several methods on getting insights from the public and getting insights from our young target groups. The key methods that we use are public surveys and open surveys that we launch before we organize activities, after we organize activities, or that we launch just to get perceptions of young people on different topics and on different issues that we are currently working on. Usually we have had good response rates from young people and from our network in providing us with data. However, there's also more extra push that we need to make as civil society representatives to collect such data, because there's still a long way to go in the way how civil society uses research and evaluation and how we can monitor the data, especially when it comes from young people, considering also ethical rules that we have to keep in mind when we collect information and data from them. So this is one of the ways that our department works with data analysis, and also we organize community gatherings and public forums or open discussions with young people where we get insights about different topics that we work on. Except for these two methods, the National Youth Congress has also established a very solid cooperation with Konrad Adenauer Stiftung. And in terms of this cooperation that we have together, we also invest in analyzing the law of youth or other youth issues and youth processes that are on the way to be implemented at the local and central governance level in Albania. So we keep track of how youth are represented in elections, or how they participate in elections. We analyze the youth law and all of other youth policies at the central or local level. Usually, being a civil society organization, the methods we also use, we intend to use free platforms as well. The professor was explaining Google Studio and Google Data and the platforms that Google puts at ease for free to organizations, and we also make use of that, and sometimes also making use of other free platforms such as Canva or Tableau to visualize the graphs and our statistical information. So overall, this is description of what our department does and how it is invested in terms of data collection, and how we make use of the free sources and platforms as a civil society organization to engage with data collection and gathering insights on youth perceptions on various issues. Also, we make use of our social platforms and our official website, where we publish those reports. We publish the studies that we conduct, and also we make them accessible to those other stakeholders that have an interest in knowing more on what we have done. For example, throughout the Tirana European Youth Capital, all the reports can be accessed by a letter of interest from interested stakeholders, and we also publish those interesting findings that can be more suitable for the general public and audience, I would say. Overall, this is our effort and our intervention in terms of data collection and data monitoring. And we also, in the next steps and in the future ahead of the National Youth Congress, we see the Department of Monitoring and Evaluation as an added value and as an asset for our member organizations and for the National Youth Congress itself, in order to be closer to the young people's voice and young people's perceptions on the work and programs that we are conducting. If you have any questions, I'm open to discuss. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dea. Thank you very much. Now I'm going to invite Georgios from TESI Group Hellenic Open University, Greece, to share his experience in this big data analysis. Thank you very much for being with us in this discussion, Georgios. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for having me here. Very interesting presentations, very interesting things there in Albania with data analysis. I am George. I'm the co-founder and CEO of a startup here in Greece that deals with big data and especially with satellite and geomorphological data. And also a member of the TESI group here in Greece that together with Open University in Patras, we are dealing with digital social innovation projects. So maybe I share a little bit to give you a better example of our work so far.
Okay, thank you.
So what we do is digitizing forest and rural areas. Can you see my screen now?
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay. So what we do is basically taking a lot of satellite and geomorphological data in the forest and rural areas in order to digitize them and offer new opportunities for tourist attractions, for better communication of local communities between them. So, for example, this is one of our best projects. Is ready to go to the market product that detects trails in forest areas through AI and satellite data. So in this project, we have a lot of data to analyze, for example, digitized trail maps, satellite images from visible and infrared spectrum, geomorphological data, satellite radar, even images and videos from drones, and GNSS data of the users themselves, in order to have the full image of the trails that they are on the map, even if they are under the trees, etc. And we can also pinpoint the distractions of the trails in order to know where we need to renovate them. So these projects we are currently working with regional governments here in Greece in order to help local communities to build a strong tourism, ecotourism and adventure tourism with trails and hiking. We had also a project with that near the borders of Albania with Aos River. The Aos River in I think it's the name in Albanian is I'm not sure, from Vjosa, something like this, is a river that connects Greece and Albania. So there was a project to connect these countries through trails from this river. And in general, we help a lot of people with our apps and also with mentoring programs that we are currently having on helping them using AI tools in order to better understand this big data that they are receiving. For example, here in Greece, we have different research centers that they have a lot of research data during the years of their research, and now they need something more complicated, for example, for an Excel program. For example, if you have like 2 axes, it's easy enough to understand the differences of this big data and to know where your data are going to lead. But what happens if you have 10 axes? Then you need to have some vector machines, some AI models that will help you have the bigger picture of it. And this is the areas that we are currently working on. And also with mentoring programs, we help others to these areas. This is a short introduction. I don't know if we have questions, and maybe if we have time, we can discuss further.
Thank you, Giorgio. It's okay. Yeah, it's very, very clear, I think, for all, and very useful, your experience which we share with us. If we have question now, please raise your hand, or Dorian will answer for the question made by Nuciola, and then wait for other raising hands.
Yeah, in the meanwhile, I just wanted to thank all our partners because we chose them wisely. We know that they fit in the different things of our puzzle on the social innovation. So for sure, I really much appreciate Clotilde, and especially that she pointed that partners is using this first-hand data. So this is a good approach, especially for social issues, that we need to have some first-hand data, and they are doing very well also in terms of promoting those data and analysis for the civil society, because not everybody also in terms of resources could handle such issues. So thanks a lot also for joining us and for pointing this. Also the mechanism, like SurveyMonkey, there are all these tools that sometimes help us in the overall. For the IDEMA, Armela, thanks a lot for mentioning the Maxi QDA. It's costly sometimes, but there are other alternatives, so it depends how one's used, but they are like very handful tools. Firstly, to organize, all your even qualitative data with 100 or 20 interviews that are long, but there are other programs, I would say, like it depends which one you are using. There is NVivo, and I mean, today with the technology, there are all these free codes but you need some cooperation with IT people on using like Panda codes, and so. But it's good, like for the civil society and for researcher, to have ready-made softwares. And then for DEA, on the National Youth Conference, I really encourage them for what they are doing for the youngsters, especially on the idea of monitoring and evaluating the policy sector, and making it public to the general overview, so this is a very strong point that they are handling in Albania. So for George, I thank you because he was giving more detailed and expertise on, like what we can do with the software and data, so there is a work behind that, but the idea seems very nice. And now to come to Nuciola, so thanks for pointing this. I could share the screen. So what I was trying to give is some, let's say, the easiest not paid tool, and just for having a general idea, because then if we want to go on more methodological analysis, there are other softwares that we need to use. Usually I use, like, if somebody is working with Excel, and especially in our cases where there are not so much elaboration on, let's say, the English or the Albanian language, there is this program on of Microsoft, that it's called Microsoft Azure Text Analysis. So if you go with the latest version of Excel, you can download that, and it makes you a kind of sentiment analysis. But for sure, like if you want to go on a more like elaborated and methodology basis, there is the NLP, natural language processes, and they are doing also a kind of data for all the languages, so you have also on the Albanian all the list of the words that have a kind of negative connotation, and they give like numbers, let's say 3 + to, you know, so it's a very elaborated tool, and usually I use that, you know, if I want to make some sentiment analysis for a number of documents, or like all the informations that you are dealing. Regarding the site, it's good because, you know, like you have option of choosing. Like I took it overall because I didn't want, you know, to concentrate on one region and make a more substantial discussion, just to show it. And then you have options of, you know, like who are the influencers, or, you know, like people that have shared. So we see that IDEMA also have make a tweet, and you see who is engaged on that and follow. The same you could do it for politicians, but I think like this software shows what is currently. So if let's say you are interested to study let's say the sentiment of Twitter of a politician and how people respond, then you need to have an access, and then to go with all the ethical issue and download, or what is called, you know, like scrolling all the information on that side, and then make this analysis on the specific, I don't know, like Twitter or whatever social media is doing. So in this aspect, I think we need a more elaborated issue that was to say for some NGOs that perhaps do not have the, or for a researcher that do not have the possibility of having a paid software, or it's not trained so much. So this is just to give an overall idea of what's going on for a specific issue. But for sure, there are a number of softwares now. I can't remember all, but I mean, the NLP project, and related also with the university, they have an elaboration on all the, let's say, words that could be having a kind of sentiment value, you know, like it's very elaborated, and you could use that as a kind of measure for, and I mean, even the Excel could work very well on that, you know, for making a simple sentiment analysis. I used that for the media, for example, and it works. So then you rather translate all the information into English, which is, and I mean, if you have a bunch of like too many information, then even Google Translator could do that. You just point and be specific to some words that they have a connotation. So this is what I could suggest as software. There are others, but for the moment, you know, this is what I remember to be the most used one in academia, and that people are not paying. So you just register. There are other programs that do, you know, additional analysis. For example, KH Coder, that's for text analysis. So you could do a number of things there, including also sentiment analysis. So you just give codes to some words, and then they calculate and give you a kind of evaluation. But that's everything on methodology. So this is the site that I was mentioning, you know, to get some information. You can choose countries, you can choose, you know, like results and topics. So it's a kind of very preliminary tools that you don't need to have knowledge, but you just follow what's going on a specific topic.
Thank you, Dorian. I see Sonila is raising the hand. Can you hear me, Sonila? No, maybe it's wrong. Sonila, are you here? No.
She can write in the chat because
Yeah.
perhaps we can't hear her. She may
You
have an
you
issue.
can write a message, or if you have a question or a comment, you can write down here. Anyone else?
Can I note
Yes.
something for the? We have a
Yes.
questionnaire for the webinars. Maybe I can share it on the chat, and if could everyone
Yeah, it's a
answer
good
it, it
idea.
would be
Yeah.
great. So I send it now.
Please, you can fill the questionnaire for the webinar. We're sharing it now. Okay, if there is no question, any last comment, Dorian, or just to close?
I just
the
invite, as George was saying, so like people could give them the their needs, a kind of evaluation with the webinars that they have followed, because our idea is to continue further and have the cooperation with NGOs and networks that are interested on the topic of social innovation. So today we focused a bit on data, but we have a number of issues which are not so much technique, like innovation could be an idea, just changing the social situation, but the form could help us, know the general opinion on the issue, what is needed in specific countries. So please fill the form, and I mean, if you have other requirements, just write to Marcela, to me, to all our colleagues, or you have the TESI LinkedIn and all the information. So please feel free on that. And we are very open to any kind of cooperation.
Yeah, you can find the link at the meeting chat for everyone who hasn't seen it yet. So thank you very much, everyone. We have come to the end of our webinar. I'd like to thank our key speaker, Dorian, for the special presentation. Thank you very much. And also all the partners being involved in this webinar. And all of you, of course, joining our webinar. For updates, please visit TESI websites, and don't miss the last webinar organized by DAISY Group, Hellenic Open University, Greece. Thank you very much for joining.
Thank you all, and see you on the next webinar. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, thank you.